are at a gas station and you're about to meet your children forever. Most people meet their children in hospitals. I met my children for the first time in a gas station. Yes. Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about the full adoption story of my two amazing children, Genesis and Gabriel. Oh, this is like one of my favorite stories to tell, other than my other favorite story to tell, which is about Augustine and Nay's adoption, which I'll link below. Those are our older sons, but this is the story of our younger two children, Genesis and Gabriel, who we adopted last May. So if you guys don't know me, my name is Winter. I have 4 children adopted from the foster care system. I have Augustine, Nay, Gabriel, and Genesis, 3 boys and a little girl ranging from 16 to 6. And this is our life, this is our family. And in this video, I'm going to be talking to you about Genesis and Gabe's adoption story. So let's jump into this story. As most stories start from adopting from foster care, it starts with a phone call. And interestingly enough, it starts with a phone call for us of a different placement. So this is kind of a funny story. I was at work one day and I got a phone call from the Department of Social Services, and they said we have 2 kids, ages 1 and 6 months or something like that, or 2 and 6 months. They were like a toddler and an infant, and it was this, they separated some sibling groups to make this work, and it was a temporary placement. And I called my husband and I was like, well, I don't know what to do, like I feel bad, like who else is gonna do this, who else is gonna take this placement if we don't? And he was like, Winter, we can't do it, like we really, like this isn't what we signed up for. We didn't want children under 2, actually. We just wanted older children. They're kind of harder to place. And so we were like not fully like convinced. So Chad went into the Department of Social Services that night. He actually saw the 2 kids there and he's like, oh, they're so cute, but we really can't place them. We're looking for older children to be placed with us. And it turns out these children were placed in a marvelous home, and so they were fine, which is great. There's always someone, hopefully, that would be able to take them that would be a better fit for them. We just weren't the best fit for them in that moment. And so the very next day, guys, I got a call from a different city in South Dakota, and they said that they have a placement for 2 children, a boy and a girl, ages 6 and 4, named Gabriel and Genesis. And my heart was so excited. It just seemed so perfect. Our boys at the time were 9 and 13. Yeah, so like that was just like the perfect age. So we had a 14-year-old, 9-year-old, 6-year-old, and a 4-year-old. It was just like the perfect group of kids, and the boys could share a room, and we had an extra room that we could turn into Genesis's room, and it was just perfect. So we did what was right. We said it wasn't like an emergency placement. They were coming from a different foster home, and so we had a little bit of time to think about it, actually. So they gave us, you know, a little bit of time, so until that night, and when we could talk to the boys about it. So when we had a family meeting with Chad and Augustine and Nay, and we said, hey, there's these 2 kids and they need to be in a home. It sounds like they probably need to be adopted, is what they were trying to tell us at the time. It's a possibility they don't, but it's a likely situation. They'll be in care for a long time. And what do you guys want to do about this? This is going to change your life. I forgot to mention they are Native American too, so it's kind of cool. Our boys are Korean refugees and these guys are Native American, so it's kind of a cool mixture of ethnicities in our house. So like that was really fun for us too. It just kind of sparked some joy for us. Some Kongmar, you know, they spark joy. We're not going to get rid of them. They're perfect. And so we talked to them, and Augustine, my sweet boy, he said, he was like 14, 13 at the time, somewhere in there, and he said, let's bring them into our house and let's adopt them. And he knew what that meant for our family. We had a placement just a few months before that was really rough, where there was like a lot of crying and a lot of, he didn't get very much sleep that week, and it was really hard on him. It was a really huge deal for him to say yes. And my younger son, he was so excited to have a brother and a sister, someone to play with, because his brother was getting really old and into older things at that point and not as much into his Legos and stuff. So he was getting some really fun playmates. So he was really excited as well. And so we said yes, and we called them back and we said yes, and she ran me through the ICWA piece. And ICWA means Indian Child Welfare Act, which means if a child is Native American or Indian, they call them Indians, they need to be preferred by the tribe before a non-Native American family can adopt them. And I understood this, I took training on this, I understood what that meant, but being faced with that in that moment, I was like, I'm gonna say yes to these children, even with the uncertainty of them being taken out of my home. I'm gonna let my heart do that, because it just seemed like the right placement for them. Their previous placement, they just weren't thriving there. Nothing against their previous foster parents. They actually had two of them. The one right before their previous foster parent was great. Placement was great. It was just, they had too many kids. And then the second one right before us, it was just hard for them. And Gabriel was struggling with anger and anxiety and just a bunch of different things that weren't good for him in that environment. So it just wasn't a good match. So they needed to be moved from that placement. So yeah, so they moved from a different city to a new city. It's kind of a big deal, actually. So we said yes. Crazy, right? And so even though there's an ICWA piece, we said yes. And we talked about it with her, and she said that in 2 days, which was like a Wednesday night, and on Friday they would be coming to our house. And so we were like, that's great, we have 2 days to prepare. This is like the dream placement. Normally you have like 20 minutes to decide, and then you have like less than 24 hours to get them into your home, or sometimes even less, maybe 20 minutes. So it's a really quick change of hands there with all that stuff. So normally placements are a lot quicker than that. But the next day I got a phone call, and they said, hey, the foster parents were wondering if you could take them a day early. Just things really weren't working out with them. And so I was like, yeah, of course, like, this is my child. I want them with me as fast as possible. I call Chad, and he was like, yeah, let's go get them, you know, like, let's go get these kids. The sooner the better. The sooner they join our family, the better. So I took like 2 hours early off of work. This is like my maternity leave. I always laugh about my maternity leaves being like a half day of work. Super funny. And so I took 2 hours off of work to drive, and we met in a halfway point about an hour from our house at a gas station. Kind of crazy, right? So you are at a gas station and you're about to meet your children forever. Most people meet their children in hospitals. I met my children for the first time in a gas station. Yes, in a very small town an hour away. It's crazy. Foster care is a trip, let me tell you. And they were delivered to us by their current foster mother, and I thought it was going to be really awkward, but it surprisingly was not very awkward at all. So I was standing in that gas station just staring out the window. We were a little early, and I was just like, okay, here I am. I'm gonna become a mom again of 2 kids. It just became real to me in that moment, and like I was just mentally preparing myself. It was kind of one of the most terrifying, exciting 15 minutes of my life, standing there in that gas station waiting for my children to arrive. Crazy, guys. I'm just letting you know. It's crazy. Foster care is crazy. And then so they came, and these 2 beautiful Native children come out of the car. Genesis was sleeping in the back, and I was so surprised because I was like 4, so she'll probably be more like a child, but she looked like a toddler, and I was like, oh, that's really cute. And it's like, these kids are adorable. And he helped his other foster mom pull out his clothes in this big giant garbage bag and hold it over his head and like chuck it into our car. He was like so proud of himself. So they gave us 2 garbage bags full of stuff that was theirs, and that was all that they had. And we exchanged the child in the parking lot at the gas station. It was weird, I'm just gonna say. And we just drove away. There's no paperwork exchange. There was nothing. And we actually had 0 paperwork on the children at that point. And you just drive away and you have children. And this is how your relationship starts with them. It's bizarre. There was not even a social worker there. That's why how weird the situation was, because they were in a different city. It was just weird, okay? Like, can you tell that it was weird? It was weird for me too. Normally they drop them off at your house in like an ideal situation. They hang around for at least 10-15 minutes to make sure everything goes well, the social worker does. But nope, not this time. It was dropped off at a gas station and then we just drive away with our kids. And Augie and Nate unfortunately weren't allowed to go with us because we didn't have enough room in our car at the time. We had to buy a new car because we only had a 5-person vehicle, and then we had to upgrade to a 7-person Ford Flex, which you guys saw that in a previous video. And so the boys weren't allowed to come. They stayed home and did homework and stuff. And so that was crazy. And so on the car ride home, it was so sweet. So there was this sweet little innocent girl in the back seat. We had a little booster seat for her, and she would just kind of like crouch down like this and smile at you. She was so shy, which is so funny now that you know her. She is still shy around new people, but now that I know her, I mean, she's just wild and free and like just full of energy and life. She just literally loves life. Me and my husband were just talking about it. She just loves life so much. So it's just funny now just remembering back to that time when she was like, you know, like so shy. But we did, we bought them both a drink at the gas station, and Gabriel chose water and Genesis chose orange juice. And I just remember her drinking the entire thing of orange juice, and I was like, good, at least she has like a good kind of appetite thing going on for her because she was so thirsty. I was like, that's great, she's a good eater. Really valuable to us. Good eaters are we like to feed our kids lots of food. And Gabriel, he was so inquisitive and he was such a good big brother and so sweet. He kept asking questions like, okay, so do you guys live in a house or an apartment? All right, can you explain to me where we're going again? How far away is this town to that town? He, you know, he's like the classic Gabriel. He's still the Gabriel he is today in every single way. He just cracks me up, and he was always just so sweet and just kind, like how he was from the very beginning, and very protective of his sister, and he was such a good boy even at that young age of 6. And it kind of surprised me because the social worker said that he had some behavior issues, and so I was like, okay, we're not seeing this right now. I was expecting a completely different scenario and just kind of bracing myself from a non-magical beginning, honestly. Like, from the few things that the social worker said about his case, I was like, we might be in for a little bit of time adjustment, time to adjust for him. If you haven't seen my last video, I was expecting us to go through a longer period of helping him adjust to a new life than it was in that moment. But he was so sweet and kind. I just appreciated him so much. So it was like this 45-minute drive and I was in the front seat secretly texting my sister and like being like, oh my gosh, they're so cute, let me show you this picture of them. And then I was just like, oh, they're so cute. It was just like super funny. And so I was over there like texting secretly about the kids in the backseat and showing pictures. So I'm gonna put a couple pictures right now of that first car ride in here for you guys. And then, so we got into town and we had them meet Augustine and Nate, and everyone was so kind and so sweet and so excited. It was actually kind of like a dream first day for a foster care placement. I know that they're not all like this, so don't get me wrong, they're not all like this, but this was a magical time. We've had some really huge successes with first days, and we got Domino's pizza. I mean, seriously, all kids like pizza, right? Actually, I just found out recently from a foster friend that she served their child pizza and they're like, nope, I don't like pizza. And she was like, what am I gonna do now? And I thought that was really funny because all our kids love pizza, right? And then we explained who the boys were. We explained at the dinner table. So this is Augustine, Nay, you are Genesis, you are Gabriel. I am Mom, and this is Dad, but you can call me Chad or Winter, whatever you want to do. And Gabriel, when I said, Mom, Dad, you can call us this, he just smiled really big and he was like, yep, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna call you Mom and Dad. And I was like, I can tell this boy starving for love and attention. He was ready for it. He was like, I'm ready to be a part of a family. I don't know how, but I'm gonna make this happen. So he was excited. So even though we had some drama later on, I remember that I gave Jen like a booster seat and she kind of cried and a little bit freaked out at me. A little bit because she didn't think that she needed one. So I was like, oh, it's fine. You don't need one. So I just took it away. Because I was like, it's just not worth it. It's just a booster seat. You're fine. If you can't reach your food, I don't care. You'll just struggle a little bit. It's fine. And knowing her now though, I'm like, okay, yeah, that's Jen. She doesn't want to struggle. And then after dinner, we let the boys play Nintendo 64 together, which is really fun. Super Smash Brothers. And I just remember them in the other room calling each other bro. And I was just like, oh my gosh, this is just beyond a dream like situation for us. Like things are going amazingly well and we were really excited about everything that was happening. And probably the biggest crisis of the night that night was trying to find daycare for the next day. That was kind of difficult so that me and Chad could go to work. And so we did find a foster mom to do some daycare for us the very next day. Classic foster care situation. And she was approved with the state to do daycare as well. So like that was really helpful and she did it for us, for both Jen and Gabe, because we are transferring schools at this point. And Chad actually that very next day, that next morning, he tried to take Gabriel and get him into first grade. And it was so awkward because we had no documentation on this kid and they're like, how did you get this child? Where did he come from? And like they were just kind of weirded out by it, and honestly rightly so, because like what the heck is going on? Why don't you have like a birth certificate? Why don't you have a social security number for this child? And he's like, hang on, like I just gotta make a few phone calls. So we sat there in the office and they're like, we'll get it to you by next week. We'll just fax it over there today so we can get him into school sometime next week. And so we were like, okay, fine, we'll just put him in daycare for today and we'll move on. And so that's super funny actually. And so luckily that was on Friday, so the weekend we had off so we could be with them. And so Friday night, we always have Friday night prayer, and we were planning on skipping it. So like I said in my last video, like when you adopt, you kind of want to like ease your children into things and like not introduce them to so many people because it overwhelms them. And we didn't listen to that advice actually. We were like, let's go to Friday night prayer. And because things are going so well, like the kids were doing really, really well. We were having a legit honeymoon period with these kids, where a honeymoon period is just like where things are going really well, and the kids like personalities haven't come out yet because you know they're scared and they're trying to be, everyone's trying to put their best face on. So we're kind of still in the happy stage of the placement. So we went to prayer, and actually I introduced them to all the friends downstairs, and they were doing so well. I left Augie with them downstairs just for like 10-20 minutes, and we went upstairs to pray with like the adults, and they prayed for me and Chad and Genesis and Gabe, and it was probably one of the most powerful prayer times that I can remember. And I remember this girl like prophesying over us and just like some really cool things about helping Native people and how Gabriel's going to be a part of that, and how it's going to open up doors for us so that we could minister to Native people. And honestly, I've seen that now in her life since adopting them. Like there's so many Native people that we're like really good friends with and we have a really good relationship with, and they teach me about how to raise your children to be Native people, and also we teach them like about Jesus, and it's been really cool actually. So there were some powerful times that night, and I was like, I'm so glad we went, even though like it's not my advice. Actually, my advice is to stay home as much as possible and get used to each other. So that weekend, the next couple days there, we took Chad's entire office and we completely gutted it. So don't get me wrong. So on Tuesday, we had no idea what we were doing for the weekend. And then that weekend, we were doing a complete remodel on Chad's office. So he had a recording studio and we crammed it all into a closet in the hallway and took the computer downstairs, and we made a little girl's room for Genesis, and we went out and bought bunk beds too. So that was where we were at. So we bought bunk beds, we had a whole new room remodel, and it was like within 4 days of knowing that these kids were coming, and it was done. So this is kind of how fast you have to think when you are adopting. There's not a lot of time for nesting. You nest after they come. So it's a little bit different with foster care. So I think that's really interesting. I know that there's a lot of foster moms out there that are like, no, I totally like nested before. I have all these age groups of clothing. I'm like, nah, no. I'm a minimalist. No, I just want what they have. I'll just get it new. We're fine. we have like 2 minutes to get it. So I'm going to use those 2 minutes to use it. Like I said, we did have a really amazing honeymoon period with the kids, a really good transition of them coming in. Within probably 2 weeks, I would say, we had some tantrums come out of Gabriel specifically. And knowing Gabriel now, like, he's probably one of the sweetest, kindest kids in the whole world. And just his heart loves deeper than most people. And so it makes sense to me that that is why those tantrums were coming out. It always happened on Sunday mornings, ironically enough. Like, I had to call Chad back from church. He left early to do worship practice, and I had to call him back, and we had a serious dilemma with him, and he was frustrated, and he was saying somehow self-harm stuff, and we said, you can't say that anymore. And he's not like that anymore at all. He hasn't done that in probably 8 months. I mean, maybe even longer. He hasn't done anything like that. So I've been really proud of him. Has grown leaps and bounds, and honestly, it's what family does to a child, what permanency does to a child, what what taking care of a child's all about, what adoption's all about. So that's like what permanency does for a child, and like really takes them to a new level in their life. And so I'm really proud of him for making good decisions with his life. He's amazing, of course. And Genesis, oh my gosh, she is a fireball of fluff and power and fun, and she's only motivated by fun. We're actually very similar, so I understand how she ticks, and so I challenge her to to go forward. Very diligent. She wants to be the best at things, and I'm like that too. So we have to have competitions to do things. We both hate laundry though, like hate it. So she definitely takes after me in those ways, and we're super happy for her. Our termination of rights happened in October, so they moved in February, and in October the termination of rights happened for them. And then I didn't really feel like the adoption was going to happen until the ICWA piece was in place. And then in November of 2017, the ICWA piece fell into place, and they said they gave us the blessing to be able to adopt them, which is really cool. I was really excited about that. And then we got to adopt them in May after all of that was done. So it's actually quite a short adoption. It was like 1 year and 3 months. I haven't heard of them going that fast before. The boys was about 2 years, and that's really a quick adoption as well. Sometimes these things can take up to 3 to 4 years depending on where you're at in the system. And so that was kind of what you expect when you adopt from the foster care system. And so we are really excited that we did that. Genesis and Gabe are completely dream children, and we love them so much, and we're a family. Like, when I look at them, I don't think of them as anything else but my children. And I just want to say this too, like, I didn't want to talk about their biological mother at all on this video, about her past and stuff, because that's her story, and that's kind of the reasons why they're in foster care is stuff that I don't want to necessarily share on here, because that's her story to share, not my story. So if she wants to share that story, it's fine. We love her, and we are so happy that she chose life, and she brought Genesis and Gabriel into this world, and they have been such a blessing to us. Like, they are our family. Like, so I'm so thankful for her for choosing life and to. Alright guys, that's all I have for today in this video. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you haven't subscribed to our channel. We have some crazy awesome news happening within a month. I can't say anything about it right now because it's a secret. So, but it's big news. It's some of the biggest news that we've had on the channel in the last couple years, and so we will tell you in time. So you guys want to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of the big things happening in the next month or so. So anyways, I hope you guys are having the best day ever, and I'll see you next time. Bye!